Here we are, Tyanna. Welcome.
Thank you.
How are
Very
you
excited
doing
to be
today?
here. I'm doing great. And I'm really excited to talk about, how we reframe loss.
Really important subject. So, Tyanna and I have been connected for probably a month or so, and that's where we really
Mhm.
got into go into deep talks. And what sparked our interest about talking about loss is how, as business owners, we tend to have plans for every year and every quarter.
Yeah.
And the plan that I had for the first quarter, one really important one, was to get pregnant.
Yeah.
And I actually got pregnant in January. And I knew I was pregnant um, by the test for a week.
Yeah.
Then I ended up having a miscarriage. And I had to really make a choice about what I wanted to make that experience be in my life. So
Yeah.
I decided that my body had made a choice to let go of the embryo. And that's what it was. It was meant to not continue its course. And I had to take a moment to write and work through what was going on in my body and my mind and realize that in life and business, we have our ups and downs, but
Hmm.
it's all about what we make them be. So
Exactly.
I went through my grieving process. I cried one night. I talked it out with Michael, and then we
Mhm.
said, all right, let's move forward. What can we learn from this experience? How can this make us stronger?
Yes.
And then now here we are. Just,
Yeah.
all right, next one,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And
So,
that's what I really learned to admire about you, Anna, is that like you seem very self-aware, right? And your attitude always goes back to I can make a decision here, and you hold that standard. And so you have the awareness of knowing, what do I need to grieve, what do I need to go through, what do I need to like navigate, because I know here is where I want to be and here's where I am. And so you make your decisions based off of what do I need to do to get here, instead of sort of staying in a place where we're just sort of, comforted, or, sad, or we sort of sink into like a different attitude where you definitely hold the line is, I'm going to get to where I need to be.
thank you. Yes, yes. Well, I think that this is really important for us as coaches, right? How
Mm-hmm.
we live our life is how we get to teach people how to live their own lives, and we can
Yes.
only teach from experience, right? So
Yeah. 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 And you are, yeah, you live it. Yeah. It's not just something that you preach, it's something you definitely embody.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I love the compliments.
It's true.
So today we'll be talking about four main points. We want to keep this short and concise so you guys actually can consume it and it doesn't take all
Mm-hmm.
the time away from your day,
Yes.
because we stand that you guys do what you need to do throughout your day. So we will talk about perspective. So I will share this. That way we can see this. So perspective, let's talk about perspective, zooming in and out of problems
Yes.
in this specific scenario about a loss. So what does it
Yeah.
look
I think in maybe like in any aspect of, if we're suffering through something, there's something that's painful to us, we have some sort of loss, we have some sort of disappointment that like really rattles us. It's our natural reaction to sort of zoom in to that issue and say, what's going on here? We want to see what's happening here so we can figure out what we need to do about it. But I think within that, natural reaction, we can do one of two things. We can either stay in that place and continue to examine, what our grief is, what our loss is, or we can, see that something is happening and like take a step back because taking that step back allows us to have a perspective that's more accurate to what our reality is, right? And so if we try to react to what's causing us pain, what's causing us loss, when we're like in this space where that's all that we see, all we see are the negatives. All we see is what we've lost, and our reaction will likely be so much more extreme than what it would be if we allowed ourselves to realize where we were and want to accurately see how is this affecting our life and how do we need to really like attack this issue, if that makes sense. And that will result in less loss, right? Because if we are, just so laser focused in on our problems, that means that we're losing perspective. We're probably breaking out of our routines. Maybe we're not working out. Maybe we're not eating as healthy because all we see is like, oh God, everything is falling apart. But if you take the time to take that step back, you can see, okay, this thing that happened isn't everything that is. We still have our goals, we still have our mindset, we still have decisions that we can make that bring us to the place that we want to be versus what circumstance has brought before us.
Absolutely, exactly. And as important as like zooming in and out of a problem is, sometimes we need to zoom in to really realize what is the core issue
What's
of
happening,
the problem that's arising. Because if we don't do the zoom in, then we can just attempt to just push it away and not deal with it.
Yeah.
We'll talk about what happens with ignore emotions in a bit. But it is important to have this as a camera. You zoom in and you zoom out. You see different things when you're in each perspective, right? So it's important to make sure that in business and life, we know how to not be attached to either one and instead keep that focus.
Yeah, definitely. And so
reframing. How does the reframe happen when a loss occurs?
Well, I would go to number 2 here is what sort of takes you out of that place of just being so like enveloped in, I lost a client or, something is like happening in my life that's not, what I planned for. Remembering what it is that you want overall, your overarching goal, your overarching why is going to help give you that perspective because it gives you that reason to pull back and realize this isn't all that there is. I have a goal. I have a desire. I want to reach so many people and make sure that they have, beautiful, like, fantastic, sensual, intimate lives, right? Of their dreams. So if I get focused in on like one thing and I let that, well, personally, like override everything else, then I'm not serving my purpose.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So as we go into that second point, remembering your mindset and goal orientation, that really goes obviously attached to how we reframe the meaning of a loss. Because in life we go through the narrative, and the narrative can be either a good one or a bad one, helping our goals, right? So it can either feed the goal or it can defeat the goal and the path that we're taking. It can distract the way. So a fall is like we see the stock market, right? It goes up, it has its peaks when we're doing really great in business, life is great, everything is just going away, and then we have those lows where we have a loss. So how we look at that loss should always be attached to how we look at the end of our life and how we look at the goals that we're trying to achieve, right?
Yeah.
Because the deep lows are going to show us something about ourselves that we can create how we feel at the lows, right? So I'm totally in my head right now about this.
Well, I think it's, you hit like, you maybe you have a dive, but there's something that you can learn from that.
Yeah.
Right? You can decide whether or not you want to live in that place. Oh God, I made like a stupid effing like decision and now
Yeah.
I'm paying for it. Or you can realize, I'm not going to do that thing again. This is something that you can learn from, right? Because we all know that the graph isn't, the straight line. We have our divots along the way,
Yeah.
because we have lessons to learn. And because
Exactly.
we've learned that lessons, that allows us to get back on the path.
Yeah.
We
And
realize,
exactly. And the story is always the most important thing, right? Like, as I said, we have this narrative in our head that as we go low, we think, okay, everything that I've done up here has been lost. But the reality is that
that's
as we
not
get
true.
challenged by life, exactly, as we get challenged by life, we get to become stronger depending
Yeah.
on the internal conversation we have about the loss.
Yeah. Yeah. We still have everything that we learned and went through back there. But the question is, how are we going to implement it today? We're suffering now. So what are we going to say that we learned through this?
Exactly.
Right?
What is the conclusion we're going to make about the loss?
Yeah. And then,
so, go ahead.
Yeah, well, a part of our second point here is also the reminder that it is temporary. Right? If we have that right goal, if we have that mindset that's really going to like feed us and like bring us out of whatever, little divot that we may be experiencing, it's like, okay, this is a temporary loss, that applies in business and also in personal life. Like we were using the example, what if I lost a client? What if I have a loss in my finances or something? If you realize my goal is maybe to have, a 50% increase in my finances or something like this, right? You still have other clients. You still have a host of other resources. Everything wasn't hinged on this one person or this one event. And so stepping back and seeing that you have opportunity to sort of show up, and do something else. Like maybe this is a setback of a week, maybe 2 weeks, maybe 3 months, depending on what your situation is. But you can still, get back on your path.
And how do we keep which will take us into our third point. Actually, let's first talk about that lover and the beast, right?
Okay.
We wanted to talk about we both have really individual ways in which we address a problem or a loss. So let's talk about the lover, because I love to hear your story about how you are like the water and I am sort of that opposite way, but there's no right or wrong way. It's all about what works best for you. So tell us about your way of dealing with these things.
Yeah, no, I was thinking before we started the live, I was thinking it's sort of like a fairy godmother. I'm sort of like the fairy god lover. Where I want people to sort of I do want people to sort of, within my work, to sort of dive into like, where are your emotions taking you? How are you feeling in that body and in your body, and sort of using that non-rational knowledge as a tool you can use rather than something that is like distracting or unwanted or perceived as like weakness. I want people to find strength and emotion, which I visualize as sort of more like water. You can easily sort of put like a barrier or something in the way and say, I'd rather flow this way, and keep your waters calm. You have some sort of control with, these, non-rational sort of things that come up within us. And
so how did you minimize? Because I love the way that you put it, that you're like, I minimize the thing and then you deal with that.
Well, I think part of that is definitely the perspective. Taking the step back and finding, refinding your harmony, refinding your resilience, finding what is it going to take for you to get to a place where I'm really sort of down. Maybe I feel broken. Maybe I feel triggered. How do I get my body and my sense of self out of that place? And for me, that's finding like, okay, what is harmonious now? And maybe that's people within your life, like having someone to offload onto and say, yeah, this really sucks. So you can get past that mental blockage of, I'm stuck. Things suck right now, but having someone that you can go to and really just like express and sort of think through out loud, it does suck. But okay, maybe I don't want to stay in that place. And now I'm thinking out loud and saying, how do I move past it? And so it's finding that harmony, getting back to a place of like neutral and saying, okay, it wasn't that bad. And I'm reinvigorated to go and like seek like what my ultimate pleasure is, what my ultimate desires are.
Yeah, which explain, since you're already there describing what the lover does, how does the lover grieve pain through a loss?
I think in a real way, like I want to help my clients occasionally, like you do deal with disappointment, especially through what I do. I want to help people find what it is that they want more than anything else. And I think desire is sort of like, like a fingerprint, it's sort of particular to each person. And so once you get to a place where I know what it is that I want, and you try to share that with another person, then, what they want may be different than what you want them to be. And so there's sometimes a very real, like, okay, where there's a disappointment here and a little bit of an obstacle, and you have to deal with it's not the way that you want it to be. But that gives you the opportunity to say, well, where do we match? Where do our desires meet? And finding like the harmony in that after, doing a little bit of grieving. And just, it sucks. I mean, it simply sucks. And you have to sit with that for a while. But, what I say again, what I admire about you and your beast mentality, you're always looking at this is the standard. And even when it comes to intimate, like interpersonal relationships, you want to have a standard. And so, you have a little bit of mud that sometimes you have to go through, but you still want to come out at the other end and saying, I have this incredible thing. And that's worth everything.
Yeah.
All the time, no matter what, sort of. And so, you have to deal with the disappointment and find your pleasure, find what makes you happy again.
Absolutely. So that is the way that Tyanna deals with her lover and how she deals with circumstances. And the way that I deal with things is the beast. It's I would say it's one of my alter egos, and it's probably really the one that I use the most. So when I encounter a challenge or a loss or something that seems really difficult for my mind to sort of grasp the concept, I let that beast come out. So I think, okay, so I'm standing here, I'm in the middle of the woods, I have no clue where I gotta go, this place is scary, but I'm gonna bring the beast down.
Yeah.
So I literally channel, envision, like imagine what she is doing, and I let her take control. So with this loss, I just thought, okay, defeated, right? In the physical world, it would look like defeat. This is not going to continue. Now I'm at a spot where I have to make a choice. And I said, okay, she takes over now. She's in charge. And I will work harder. And this has made me stronger. This has not defeated me. I have more fuel to the fire. And I will come back stronger. I am stronger because I went through a loss and I know what it feels like. We become more of a complete human being when we're able to incorporate the negative and switch it into a positive.
Yeah.
Because our normal mentality of what a negative is to look at it as like I said, as a defeat, as something that we have lost.
Yeah.
But when you look at a loss as a gain, then loss and defeat have no power over you. So all of a sudden you have gained master power of what could have defeated you, but instead you're stronger. So what can really defeat you if you look at every loss as something that you've actually gained?
Yeah. And for you, I know, like, looking back and seeing I've overcome this, I've overcome this, I've overcome that. And then looking at a future obstacle, I can easily overcome you the same way I did everything else.
Exactly. Yeah. So both of our ways in which we deal with a loss definitely has to incorporate that grieving mindfully, right? Because if we don't grieve the loss of a client, if we don't grieve that we have lost some income, if we don't grieve that, if we don't understand that, if we don't dissect where we get the pain from, the next time we get challenged by life, we are probably going to fail.
Yeah. You come weaker. You come with that defeated attitude, and what's going to happen? You know, you were weaker than what you were before, and you're likely still facing the same challenges.
Because that's going to stack up. That's going to stack up. If you fail before and then you get tested for the same thing, then your mind is going to have things to stack up and tell you you're a loser.
Yeah.
Losing over and over. So your mentality has to switch from, no, I'm not a loser. I have overcome these things before, and I'm stacking my gains. I'm stacking my gains, and I will make sure that I understand where this pain comes from. And I mean, I know you do a lot of, you create your environment so that you feel in this space that you're in control of it. If you light your incense and you feel this great pain, for me is the writing. I make sure that I write everything down. And when I have overcome that thing, and when I'm going through the next loss or the next problem, I can go back and look at my writings and say, okay, got it. This thing has a little, it has little branches coming this way.
I know what you are. I recognize where you're coming from, and I have a game plan.
Separating from the loss.
And now you've turned it into a game, right? You've turned it into an opportunity now. You've completely switched, what it could have been.
Exactly. You're not a victim anymore. You're in charge. You're responsible. Which takes us to our last point, which is learn the lesson. Life happens for us, not to us. It happens as lessons, not as a punishment. Because when it happens to us as a lesson, we get to grow from it. But if we look at it as a punishment, then we will be defeated every time we get hit by life.
Every time. And live in that victim mentality, for sure.
And it also takes us away from actually taking responsibility from things.
Yeah.
Which essentially leaves us with no power. And when we have no power over what happens to us, or the way that the mindset we have about what happens to us when we encounter a loss, we're lost.
Yeah. And this is what pushes the path forward. Either you stay stuck saying, I'm not sure what happened and I want to get here, but the world is telling me I can't. You're not learning the lesson, because obviously there's something within you or within the choices or something that you can do to overcome whatever that obstacle may be.
Exactly. Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, this was great. Thank you very much. Yeah. So everyone who's not connected with Tyanna, you must connect with her.
Yes, please.
She's doing great stuff, and we're definitely looking forward to doing more of these, and we would love to hear your feedback on it and see what we can improve on, how we can better serve you guys.
Yes.
So thank you guys for watching, and Tyanna, thank you for your time, and we'll talk another time.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.